Still have the 40 minute cap?
No more 40-minute cap.
Good, awesome.
Yeah, we're rocking a licensed Zoom account now. I was about to go out and start paying for it. So, all right, cool. So, we're gonna do the Tesla Motor Company project that I did last unit and the unit before, but the unit before that I did like a login page. That was not as everyone was like, "Oh, that's really cool." I guess, yeah, it was like nobody was really excited about it. So we went back to Tesla because it's a login page. Who cares? So normal introduction to what I've done. So I have some basic assets like a logo. This is going to be for our header. Model 3, literally I found this on Google. I got something with a background that could be, it's transparent. Model S, Model X, and a Model Y. I don't have the Cybertruck because, well, they haven't produced it yet. I would totally take your money if you want to buy something off of this page. And I may or may not deliver a car. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. I also have our favorite icons. So if I go to favicon, this is what it's displaying up in this this little corner here. And it says official Tesla site, honest, which is coming from our index.html. I'm not using any of the fancy, robots or whatever. Well, I guess we got the robots file, but I'm not using manifest.json. It's just a very basic HTML file. As usual, I changed my div class container from div ID root, just a personal preference, I guess. I don't know. It's not anything that you have to do. And that's it for the public directory. As for app, I have a header with a H1 inside of it. And that's effectively all that's in here. Yeah, I guess let's get started. I'm getting dinged. Give me 1 second here. I need to make sure it's not something an emergency. No, it's not an emergency, but let me take care of this really quick. What was it? Let me open up some notes too. Apologies for wasting a little bit of time. This is one that I'm going to want notes for because of Yup. I love Yup, but it definitely helps to have notes. Yeah, so we should be good to go. So if I'm in my index.js, effectively this is just rendering our app. We got it wrapped with strict mode or whatever. I don't really need to have that. I also don't really technically need web vitals or any of this other stuff. So yeah. So we'll go ahead and save that and make sure we haven't broken anything. So this is just like a really very basic React. So we're going to be mounting it onto our container in our public HTML. So it's looking for class container and it just mounts it directly there and it renders whatever is in app. So when app returns, it's going to return a class name app with a header H1 inside of it. And so we can actually drop down our elements and see our div class container, which is where we started. Holy cow, my phone or my Slack's going crazy. And we've got our app, and inside of the app, we've got a header and an H1. So Tesla Motor Company. I actually am going to change this to be a fragment because I think I'd like that a little bit better. There we go. So now it's just a div class container with a header in it. And, you know, if we wanted to add in a main and a footer, we technically could if we wanted. So, you know, is ampersand copy. Might just wrap that in a key tag. I just forget what it is. Ampersand copy. Oh, I forgot the semicolon. That's better. All right, so now we've got copyright 2020 Tesla Motor Company Incorporated or something. The or something is very true. So I'm going to start out with, I guess, routes today, just some very basic routes without doing anything crazy or anything like that. And we're going to end up with a list of cars that people have ordered on this page. So we'll need some state. We'll need to do a form with like all kinds of cool stuff with like yep and everything else, and kind of make it so that we can do some fun things. So let's say that I have something like Amazon. So I'm going to do a quick explainer on routes and sort of why it's super powerful. So if I go to Amazon.com, and I've done this a couple of times for people, so I'm going to do the Bobaverse example since I used it earlier this week. So let's say that we want to look at book 1, right, of the Bobaverse. So what this is doing is this is loading up a page. Notice how everything is exactly the same. They've got all these reviews. Might be one in there from me. And there's the footer down here, more crap that you can buy. You know, everything is the same on this, right? So if I just try to go and look at what I know is the basic information that comes off this page, which is Amazon.com, only one /DP/B01L082SCI. I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat, I guess. Check out. There it is. Too much screen real estate. So like if I paste this to anybody, it should be able to go to this page. And it's a nice short link and everything else. Yeah. So when I have a route, it is loading a new page. If I copy and paste that route from a URL and I send it to you, it's going to be loading up a brand new page for you and the first render that's ever done. Imagine you've never gone to Amazon before and there's no cache data or anything else. It's going to load the exact same page as what I just sent you, minus, you know, you might have different products at the bottom, and that's it. So this endpoint here is for Bobaverse book one. It's a pretty cool book if anybody gets a chance to listen or read it. But this allows us to be able to share this information with other people when we have a route that somebody can go to externally by just pasting it into this URL bar. So that's one important thing why we want routing. And it's like if I go to Bobiverse book 2, I do the exact same thing. Let's see here. Let me clean this up. I'm going to send the same thing over here in a second. And this will be a completely different link. So this one's going to be amazon.com/dp/B01MRCW0GS. Copy, all uppercase. If I stick that in the chat, then you can see Bobiverse book 2. So you can see that these are unique websites that we're going to, but they're all generated off of effectively the same basic components, the same basic everything else. So when we go to this route, we're wanting to render something to the page that's identical to the previous one. So like this is book 2, it still looks the exact same. I know exactly where everything is going to be. I even get slightly different items at the bottom of my page. But all of the reviews are there. All the descriptions are there. If I wanted to say, yeah. I think you're off mute. I'm going to go ahead and default mute. Where is that? There we go. Okay, so now everybody's muted, but you can come off mute anytime you want. And so it allows me to send you information that goes to what I'm referring to. So like if I say, hey, I want you to go and buy this book, or I want you to buy the second book, I could tell you to do that. You don't have to buy it, by the way, just FYI. It's a geeky book, but it's fun. But if I wanted to send you something, everybody's copied a URL and sent it to their friends, or a GIF/GIF, depending on how you pronounce it, or whatever. They've just copy and pasted that link, right? And when they do that, it's saying, hey, I want you to go to this place. So routing allows us to do that. But more importantly is if I click on one of these other products down here, so like this thing. So this isn't actually having to reload the entire page just because I clicked on a link. That would just take a lot of juice, right? So that's the second part, is being able to say, hey, certain parts of this page have already been rendered with this type of data. We don't need to render it again. We just need to update this one component because we clicked on it and it went to a different location. And that's what React Router is going to allow us to do. Second off, we're still teaching React Router version 5 because version 6 is iffy on whether or not it's going to be used right at this moment. But there's definitely people that still use React Router 5. I know probably about 20 of the projects that are at the company that I work for are running React Router version either 4 or 5. And they haven't gone to version 6. So it requires a lot to move off of version 4 to 5, and it requires a lot to go from 5 to 6. And they don't want to put the effort into spending that much money just to move their routing. So for right now, React Router 5 is still in vogue. React Router 6, maybe they'll go to it. There's some advantages to it, but they're not big enough for us to move over. So as with anything NPM, I usually will go ahead and do a Google search for NPM, and this one I'm looking for React Router DOM. And if I go here, you're going to notice that we have this NPM I React Router DOM. And my current package JSON does not have React Router DOM, so we can't access it at all. We can't start using the library until we install it, as usual. Let me go and see this. Make sure it didn't crash. Okay, we haven't crashed anything yet. So if I go and I kill my server down here, if it will die. It's not dying. Die. Okay, I'm going to trash that and see if I can open it again. This may or may not work on a Mac. You may have to do a kill order to do that. But what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to run my npmi React Router DOM. And the reason why I copied that is because I have misspelled certain things, and then you don't want that to happen. So you'll get either somebody else's package that you weren't expecting, a virus, or who knows what. Because like these public repositories are public. You can literally publish your own package anytime you want, as long as it's not taken by somebody else. And sometimes you can do that too, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm just going to run npmi React Router DOM, and this is going to install our router, allowing us to become Amazon or Tesla in this case. So now we can see that we have React Router DOM that says that we should be able to use it because it's installed and ready to go. So let's see if I need to kill port 3000. We'll do npm run start. So far, so good. Yay. So does anybody know what I mean by when I say React Router is a provider? You guys heard the word provider before?
No, we haven't.
Okay. So whenever you hear the term wrap app, in this case, so like they want you to wrap your app in a router, that is giving a provider for app to get the things from React Router DOM. So what you may have seen is something like import browser router from React Router DOM. And a lot of the time you'll see the pattern where it's as router, right? So what browser router is a provider. So what a provider is going to do when you wrap it like this, so we'll do, did not wrap, did I? Sorry, I'm so when we wrap our app inside of this router is a provider of this library for anything that is a child of router. So anything that you need to have that is a part of that routing, in other words, basically everything inside of app needs to be wrapped in this router. So we're just wrapping our quiet my phone up, it's dinging. You're going to wrap your app inside of the router, and this is going to give app access to anything that is inside of React Router DOM. Now you still have to import them inside of app, but it allows the router to control how the app is rendered. So when the app needs to be re-rendered, it will re-render the entire page, assuming that it needs to re-render the entire page. If not, it's going to only re-render app when it needs to be re-rendered. So app may say, hey, I want to re-render the entire page because we went to a different page because we linked to it, but this router is going to stop that from happening and say, hey, I only see these changes. I'm just going to change these things that you changed. So this is where the magic starts to happen. We haven't done anything yet. We've just wrapped it in a router. So this page still renders, so I haven't broken anything. It's always a good sign. Inside of my header, I'm probably going to want to have a few little links. So first thing, I'd probably want an anchor tag to my home page. So we're just going to call this home for right now, and we'll get into some better UX here in a second. And say that we wanted to do a Model Y car. So we might have like another one. And if you notice, this is going to go to this path /model/Y. So if I save this, I've got a home button that goes here, a Model Y button that goes here. But if you notice, this is having to refresh the entire page. So that's getting rid of that savings that we were getting from Amazon whenever we go from page to page to page, and it's downloading the entire page at the same time. Amazon's a gigantic page. Why would we want to keep downloading the page over and over and over and over when all we need to do is just see what changed? So what we would do in this case is we would change these anchor tags out with links. So I'm going to change these to links, which I think is, yeah, I got it right. Control F2 on the PC. I'll get these right one of these years. And we're going to do capital link. And then on this href, I'm going to change these to 2. And that's the biggest difference. So now if you notice down here, if I click on home, it's no longer refreshing the whole page, but it is changing the URL bar up here. So now it's not going to have to refresh the entire page. You're not watching the copyright refresh every single time. So this is saving whoever you're working for money because they're not having to spend money on servers to say, hey, give me the entire page. Hey, give me the entire page. Instead of it's just going to say, hey, I just need this little tiny chunk of data. And it's going to save money that way. And that's just by adding routing. And the user experience goes up because then they don't have to wait for an entire page to download because they're on, 4G cell phone signal or something. So, the thing is, nothing changed on the page. It's a little boring. We need to get something where we have a little bit more information. So let's go ahead and copy these. We're going to do the S, the 3, the X, and the Y. That could be an acronym, but probably isn't. And now we have some links between those. Now we're going to start actually doing something about it where it's showing us something slightly different for each page. This is where we're going to get into parameters, and we're going to get into just rendering, just say the normal home page. So for us to be able to do that, we are going to want to have a switch. No, sorry, my bad. And inside of the switch, you're going to have a route. So if I have a route, I'm going to look up some documentation. So let's see here. This is one of my favorites for getting the Konami code. I'll go and put this in the chat as well. But this is the reacttraining.com. They're the people who invented React Router. A blog post they made on React Router 5 version 5.1. This has almost everything that you need to pass the sprint and also do really neat things inside of React Router. So this is the way that it used to be done. So like they say, hey, this is the React 4 way of doing things. This is the React 5.1 way of doing things. We're actually on React 5.3.3 at this point. So inside of this route, you'll notice that we just have this path. So this path is going to be referring to this path up here. So like if I just go to localhost 3000 and there's just a slash there, I know it's small, and I hit enter, that's going to load up the home page, assuming that we have this path in here. So we're going to do a path to just a slash. And we'll render out something like page 2. We'll say welcome, please select your car above. Something like that. Ah, now we can see something that I had messed up. So you'll notice it says switch and route is not defined. So remember how I was saying that we only wanted version 5, not version 6? Well, when I did this, you'll notice I did npmi React Router DOM. So when you just type in npmi React Router DOM, it's going to uninstall the latest version. In this case, it's 6.3. So if you get stuck on this and you're just like, it keeps erroring out and telling me that, you know, React Router DOM version, it doesn't have anything called switch or route. So that's the first sign that you've messed up and you've installed the wrong version. So if we go back over here to the package.json, you'll notice that we installed 6.3. So how do we change this? So what we're going to do is we're going to put an @ sign. So it's saying I want to install this package at this version, and we can do 5.3. I already forgot. 5.3.3. Hopefully that helps somebody else out on the sprint, because that's like the #1 question I get. It's not working. Has anybody run into that problem yet?
Yeah, I actually did, because I tried to start doing this the day before lecture.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is busted.
Yeah. So it's usually the wrong version of React Router. So this is how you install React Router. Is I'm just doing an npmi React Router DOM at 5.3.3. So when I do this, you're going to see that this React Router DOM here is going to go from 6.3.0 to 5.3.3. So it's already automatically downgraded me to 5.3.3. So now I can restart this. by the way, I did that on purpose. That was not a mistake. Like I fess up to my mistakes. That one's one that I've been trying to figure out a good way of showing what happens in real life when you have the wrong version and how to fix it. Nah, it's still complaining. Let's see here. Why? I may have to uninstall it first. It's trying to close it down. Oh yeah, that's right. We haven't even put them in here. That's why. Ignore me. Route, not router. Well, that is trying to quit, but it's not happy with me. So I'm just going to start it again. Proof, even I can make mistakes with my intentional mistake. I got to get better at that. I even practiced that a little bit earlier. Didn't work right. It never does. Like live coding is like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And just practice is going to get you better at it. All right, so now it's well, it's still loading.
Brian, is there a difference between npm run start and npm start?
No.
Okay.
One doesn't have run in it.
Right. Okay.
So npm start is just a short way of saying npm start. But like, let's say that you had another script, like in your package JSON. So like if you look at your scripts here, like this start is something that they've got where it's like alias. So if you do npm and then start, it's going to do npm run start. But you might not have that on something like dev. So instead of it being npm dev, you're gonna have to type npm run dev. So, but with npm start, it's just less characters to type.
Okay.
But yeah, npm start is a very easy one to do. Okay, so that's working. What did I break? I've already broken it. Switch is not defined. Where is it not defined? Oh, I haven't saved it. Recompile. There. So I have unbroken it magically, sort of. But it would have given me the same error because switch and route is not defined in React Router DOM version 6.3. So I simulated it, sort of. It's still complaining. Is it? No, I just needed to refresh. So now if I click on say like model X, well, it's still showing me this welcome, please select your car above, and that's where exact comes in. So if I put an exact, it means that any path that only matches this is going to display that welcome to please select your car above. So let's see, it's gone. If I go back home, which is going to the root, the slash route here, then it's going to display this. But if I go to Model S, Model 3, Model X, or Model Y, it doesn't display that welcome message in the route. So that's the explanation on exact, just FYI. But if you wanted it to always say, welcome, please select your car above, then you could just leave it in there and it would work perfectly fine. So, enter twice, whatever. If I make another route, and what if I put this where the exact path is equal to model, and let's say that we put in a component for displaying the model. So we're going to do a new folder. I'm just going to call this component. And a new file. And we're going to call this, I guess, model .jsx. So if I'm making a new component, I'm just going to basically import React from React. That's debatable on whether you need it anymore, but I don't know. I guess it's out of habit. Second, I need a new variable. And we'll just match that to the name of the file. We're going to set that equal to a function. We're going to export our new variable. And we're going to, I guess we're probably going to have props inside of here. Maybe I'll console log my props, because why not? And return some JSX and says, hi, this is a car. Something to get us rolling, right? So an app, we're going to want to import that file. So model from component model. And we're going to want to render it here. All right, so now we've got, hi, this is a car, Model Y, Model X, Model 3, Model S, and then home says, welcome, please select your car above. So this is kind of like not very useful because we're just routing to this model, and it's showing us this is a car, but we want to grab whatever this is at the end and display it. Instead of this is a car, we want to say what type of car are we clicking on. So we can pass information on this, so we have a unique identifier that we have a Model 3, Model S, Model X, or Model Y that we can go to. So inside of my model, oh, sorry, let's start with here. So if I have a route and say that I wanted a model, and then we wanted to call this, I don't know, we're going to call the variable EV. So what I do to turn this into a variable is I just put a colon in front of it. And what this is going to do is it's going to put it in as a key value pair inside of the parameter variable that we're going to be grabbing next. So we can go and read what's up on that that URL bar right now. So it's localhost 3000/model/y. So what we want to do is anything after the slash, in this case, the letter Y, we want to bring it in to our data so we can do whatever we want to with it. So if I save this, now we have a connection to a variable so we can actually read it. So we've got /model/:EV. So the variable name is going to be called EV by the time we're done with it. And the way that we're going to do that is to use params from React Router DOM. So what use params is it's a method that we can save whatever that slug name is as a variable from use params. We're going to invoke it right there. So if I console log whatever EV is, what? It didn't work, of course.
Spelled path wrong.
Path. I did.
Yeah.
Patch. That would do it. That's fantastic. All right. So now if you notice, we are getting a Y. So if I click on 3, so this is /model/3, it's bringing in the number 3. S, it's bringing in the letter S. X is an X. So let me see here. I'm going to make these all caps here. This is going to make my life easier so I don't have to do a uppercase or something. So we can console log this. So I can go from home to Model S, to Model 3, to Model X, to Model Y. So you can see we're on S, 3, X, and Y. In the right order again. So let's make it so it can just display that. So this is a model. Oops, sorry. This is a model, say 3 order page, something like that. So this is the Model Y order page, or this is a Model Y, Model S, Model 3. So I need to make that a little bigger. You guys probably can't see it very well. Model X and Model Y. So anytime that I click on this, instead of it refreshing the entire page, it's just rendering out this route only, because all we did was change the route, and it refreshes whatever this order form that we were doing. So that gets you pretty much everywhere that you need to go on routes. There's still some other things, like once we submit, we probably want to go back to the home page and say, hey, congratulations, your order is blah, 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 or whatever. Right? Nope. Yeah, nobody's going to answer that. So go ahead.
Quick question, sir. Use params we use to get the letter at the end of the link. Is
So
that use params doing?
So use params is a function that you call, and it returns an object.
Mhm.
So because it returns an object, we can destructure whatever's in the object by putting in the key name into that notation right there, where you have the curly brackets with EV in it. So the EV came from our definition over here. So this model : EV, anything with a colon is a variable. So, or that's your key. You can actually do more than one, like LOL. So we've got EV and LOL, and I could put in like EV, comma LOL, and then we put whatever LOL is here. So if I click on a Model X, I break it. I think I already broke it. Maybe it's got to have something in here for it. Yeah. So each one of these characters is now its own variable. So if I have 2 of those things, I need 2 characters minimum. So I can add more things in here. This is a Model Y order page 454, 56, 487. You can tell I was kind of using the touchpad on that one. And it's because of this up here, as I went to Model Y 454, 56, 487. But because I have an exact path on a Y, it doesn't know what to display. It doesn't display anything because there wasn't 2 variables there. I think that went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. But hopefully that helped, or hopefully didn't confuse too much.
Yeah, that basically we use it to get the variable from URL.
Mm-hmm. And you can match those into like other slashes and everything else. So like if you had, Model 3 slash, and then red, you would show a red Model 3 or something. And so you could have all your variables off the end of that if you wanted to, but that's not typically how you would do it. You would do that with other things, but we'll definitely get down a rabbit hole if we want to start making it customizable. In this case, it's probably not worth it. Or at least I don't think so. Unless anybody else has a request on that, of course. Anybody else lost? It's a good time to ask a question because we're about to get into the form.
I was just about to say, if you want to make it customizable, wouldn't you just make a form on the page?
Well, yeah, you're going to make a form on the page, but
Yeah.
imagine if you linked in the data that was coming off of those parameters at the top. Like, so let's say that we had, like model 3, red, plaid mode, things like that, all of the things across the top. And you just had a slash between all of those. You could have those as configuration options. Then we'd be here for 4 hours.
I was about to say, it'd be easier to make like a drop down, and like change it, right?
Yeah, and that's sort of what we're going to do. So the thing is, a drop down is actually pretty simple. A checkbox is hard. It sounds totally backwards.
No, I see why. I see why.
So and that's going to get into a lot of the harder things about forms. So if I want to put in an order form, I'm going to probably want some information about what type of a car I'm ordering. So I'm going to do an H2, and we're going to just say model, and we're going to EV order. And we're just going to make this change, make sure that it actually looks correct. I don't think I saved my app. Yeah, put it in there. I'm refreshing. There, that's better. Add stale data. All right, so we've got it. Welcome, please select your car above. We're going to do a model Y, right? So it's already putting in the type of information that we want into this field. And maybe an image. And we're going to go to our assets folder. And we're going to do let's see. Oops, I'm doing this wrong. We're going to do a /assets/model dash color sign curly brackets to break out of our string literal and put in our EV dot PNG because that's that. So basically the EV is this I want to add. That's not what I want. Sorry. I'm on the wrong file. Okay. I want to have it here.
You misspelled model, Brent.
That's shocking. Model. Yeah. What did I screw up? Oh, I still have an LOL. Save it. All right, so now I have a model Y. It's taking up the entire page. If I go to a model X, here's a model X taking up more than the entire page. Model 3. Yeah. So maybe we should just do some really quick styling. So I'm just going to put in a new file here, and we're just going to call it app.css. And on this one, I think I'm gonna put this as a data style equals order form, something like that. And so in my app CSS, have you guys ever seen something like a data style for styling things?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this is just a data attribute. And the way that you would access this is just do curly brackets that and start styling. It's pretty hard. So what we might do is we might want to do the image that's inside of our order form as with say 80%. And let's go ahead and import our app CSS. I have to have this in quotes. Yeah, so that looks it actually looks horrible, but it at least isn't taking up 3000% of the screen. So we've got a Model Y, a Model X, a Model 3, and a Model S. So what we can do is we can have this picture of the car here and have all the form stuff underneath it. And this is going to be a pretty small form for us. Effectively, we're going to be doing just enough to get the form where it's functioning, and then we're just going to add in our stuff. For my purposes, I want the form to live on the component itself. So first thing that I'm probably going to want is some sort of a state. So we need a use state. I don't think we need to console log the EV anymore. I'm going to continue logging props because I can. And in our use state, we're going to want some sort of initial state for, say, name. We probably want, I guess we could probably do like a drop down for color, which is also going to be a string. And maybe we want a checkbox. I can't spell today, can I? Right? So this will be our initial state, is just like 3 items where you can type your name, you can check the color that you want, and whether or not you've lost your mind and want to go fast. Right? So let's assign this to a new set of variables. And we're going to call this form and set form. So one of the things that you'll notice is that a lot of the times you'll find an initial state. Right? Have you guys seen initial state before?
Yeah.
So all we're doing is we're making it so that we can reset the form to whatever we started with in this case. So we can take that out of our use state, put it up here, and then just replace it with initial state. So whenever we submit the form, we want it to reset. And that's that's all that does. So when we want to reset and we've hit the submit button, the last thing that we do is we just do the set form is equal to initial state, and it resets it so that you don't have that information still in that form. So now that we have some data, we can start making our really, really tiny form. So first thing that we're going to need is a form. I don't need an action on it. And we need to have we're going to need 3 separate inputs. So I'll probably label first, and we're going to call this one our into your name. I think I'm just going to have that lowercase, and then we'll have an input box with text in it, right? So we've got an input type of text. There is a name string. I don't really need an ID. And we're going to have a value on it. So if I save this, we should have, you know, just a regular, normal, everyday input box. And whenever somebody wants to type into this, we need to let it know the key and value that we're going to be using from our form state. So our form state has the initial state, so it's equal to this, but it's made a copy of it. And so our initial state is going to have a key of name. So that's where we're going to be calling it here, name, and a value of form dot name. So in this case, we're going to do form dot name. And name is always just a horrible thing to call anything. I probably could have called it person or something, and it'd make more sense. It would be name equals person and stop confusing people. Let's just do that. Might as well. There. It's no longer a name. This is going to be name equals person. And form dot person. So now I should be able to type in here, right? Well, it's not doing anything. Notice how we're getting this component is changing a controlled input. So if I refresh this and I start typing, well, maybe it's not going to allow me. Well, I think I may have skipped ahead, but effectively this value here is going to be whatever has been inputted into this. So like if I type this is a person, I save it, it's going to show up in here, or at least it should have. Of course it's not. There we go. I had to refresh. So this is a person is showing up as our initial state, which isn't really what we want. We just want it as a blank. So anytime that the form changes, we're going to want to update this value that's in here. And we do that by making a change handler. Changes, sounds great. And inside of here, we're going to take an event. I use E because I'm lazy. And we're going to want to call this anytime there's a change. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to console log E. So we can see what on earth E is anytime that I type something. So I'm going to refresh the page. I'm going to type the letter E. And you can see whenever I hit the letter E, it ran that function up here in console log the letter E. So the letter E was equal to all of this stuff. Fantastic, right? So it says, was default prevented? No. Does it bubble? Yes. Is it cancelable? No. Things like that. Totally useful for nothing right now. But if you notice, whenever I'm looking at this target and I hover over this input, do you notice that it lit up where that event was coming from? So that on change event, whenever I hit the letter E, I focused it, I hit the letter E, and it said, hey, on this is where my event came from. So this is event.target. So E.target. So let's go in and do E.target. If I can spell. And I'm going to refresh. I'm going to hit the letter E again for event, because why not? Now it's telling us that this is a DOM element. Input type, text, name, person, value. It doesn't really give me that right now, but it will. We'll make it give it to us. So if I go over here and I do e.target.type, it should output the word text. So let's save that. And I just go in here and I type the letter E for event. There is our e.target.type is text. If I wanted to do the name, the name is person. And if I wanted to do the value, I'm gonna hit the letter L. So who wants to know whether or not it's upper or lowercase? Okay, let's get an over under on this. Who wants uppercase? Who wants lowercase?
Lower.
Okay. So, oh, you lost. Sorry, that was on purpose. But yeah, so like if I go in uppercase or lowercase, or type an E or an uppercase E or the number 8 or an asterisk or parentheses, it's telling me what I'm typing in. That one character, it's telling me what I'm typing in, because we're not updating anything in there. So the value is actually equal to nothing right now, because we've never updated the value in our form state, which is equal to initial state. So it's just an empty string right now. But whenever I type that E, it sets the event and says, hey, something's changed and it has this value in it. And then once when the page re-renders, it re-renders with nothing, because this is never updated. Does that make sense? Rendering gets really difficult. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Basically,
Yeah.
we're not setting updating state.
Yeah, we're not updating any state yet. We just console
Yeah.
logged. So what I might do is, I'm kind of interested in 3 things here, and there's a reason for it. So what I might do is I might destructure this a little bit. So I might want a value, a name, and a type, right? So when we're console logging out e.target, oh, sorry. Refresh. And I just typed the letter E here. So if you'll notice, we have an input. So input.type, input.name, and input.value. Those are the 3 things that you need in order to mess with anything in React on an input box. So you need to know what it is, whether it's a text or a checkbox. Drop down, we don't care. If it's a checkbox, then we have to deal with it differently. If it's a name, we need to know where in our object we want to go. So that's the key name that we're going to be accessing in our object. And the value is what we're going to be replacing. So we're going to start out with a very simple change handler. And what we're going to do is we are going to set form. So now what type of data is set form? Is it a string, array, object? What is it?
Set form, it's a function.
Nope, not set form, just form.
Oh, form. It's an object.
Yep. So since it's an object, we want to replace it with an object. We don't want to change it to a string or an array or anything else. It needs to match exactly. So from there, we want to have everything that used to be in there, right? So we are setting the form, we're making a new object, and we're copying whatever was in there into the new object. From there, we're going to replace whatever it was that we just saw with the new data. So first thing, I know you guys remember square bracket notation from unit 1, where they had that horrible thing where you had to do like square brackets and then put whatever thing in there that was a string that had a space in there, like, object space 1 or something. It's the same thing here. So all this is going to do is say, whatever the name of the value you want inside of here. So it takes the string value and it turns it into something that you can access directly onto an object. So in this case, we're going to put name in here. So when we look at name, it is a string value named person, right? So if I look up here, the string value named person here is the name of the key. From here, we want to put in our value. So what we've done is we said set form. So it says, hey, I want to completely replace everything in form with something else. We then put in an object. We then copy the old data, whatever used to be there, from the entire object. And then we replace only what has changed. Hopefully that makes more sense. This always confuses everybody.
That makes more sense when you like step by step it.
Yeah, instead of just like flying through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah,
if I save this, this should allow me to type something in here. So yeah. So if you notice, it's console logging this because it's console logging the e.target right here. So it says input type text, name person, value is this is a test. So we can actually see what's in our state object on our person key. This is exactly what's in there. So like if I delete the space at the end, you can see that it now has no space here. So if I just go in here and I do something like, I don't know. Let's refresh this page. So you can see person is just an empty string. And I type the letter T. It console logs out that the element input type text, name person, value T. So now it says key person instead of our state will have the value of T. Key person has the value of T on the next render. It doesn't happen quickly. It happens after it's re-rendered the page. Or after it's finished rendering the page, it then says, hey, I've made a change. I need to re-render the page. And that's where this happens because it's re-rendered or re-rendering. So I typed the word Tesla. You can see each time that we did it, starting here, we had a T, I added an E, added an S, added an L, added an A. Each one of those is a change event that's running that function. And it's updating what's in state with what you're typing. One character at a time, or one click at a time. Hopefully that makes sense. Bueno? No bueno?
So the updates as we type.
Yes. Yeah, every time you make a change, it updates that object. It deletes the object, it replaces it with a new object. It's the invasion of the body snatchers, but better than, the movie.
Because we have on change function on it.
Yeah. Invasion of the body snatchers, you pay money to see that. This pays you money. Well, eventually, you got to get the job first, but still, it will. Okay, so anybody else lost? Did I lose everybody? Now's the time to ask.
Feeling solid.
I like hearing that. Okay, so we have one type of change handler working. Let's go ahead and add in a drop down. So if I just do a Google search for HTML drop down, this is a select tag. So if you notice, let me zoom in a little bit there. So we have a label that wraps our select tag, or I guess they have a label that doesn't wrap the select tag, but that doesn't seem very semantic to me. You have a select name with options inside of it. So we can still attach a event to a select. So by doing an on change, just like we would for this. And because this also has a value and you can assign it a name here in your select, the only difference is you have your name here and whatever your value that you want here. So name belongs on select, value belongs on your option. So let's do that right quick. So I'm just going to do a label. HTML4 and case C. So this is going to be a select. The name is going to be color because that's what we have in our initial state. Don't need an ID for that. And each one of these options is going to have a value of whatever we want to put in there. So red would be red. It's 3 options here. And we're going to do, I don't know, gray. Blue. And black. Sounds good. So we might also want to have an option for please select, and the value is just not there, right? Type is assigned a value, but never used on 18. Oh, we're not even there yet. So I saved that. This should render a drop down. So I should be able to drop down red. So refresh. Gray, blue, or black. The problem is that we haven't connected it to anything yet. So on here, we're going to do the exact same thing. Oh, geez. We're going to run the exact same function on this. So we've got an on change for changes. The name is color. So it's passing in name. And it's going to pass in whatever value came from here into the changes function. So if I refresh and I select red, you should notice that the select name was color. And the option that was selected was red. Well, it's not really showing my selection, but yeah. But we do know that it's in state as color of red. So now if I go to gray, I change the color to gray. And then black. So it can select any of these. And if I go to please select, it's just back to an empty string. So that gives you your default, and you can check yup to make sure that it's not an empty string. It has to have more than one character in it. If it has more than one character in it, then hey, you're good to go. So you could literally just check to see if it was a string value instead of some sort of a drop down or whatever. And if it's greater than one value, then obviously they've selected something. Yeah.
We love that.
So now we've figured out a way of doing every single input type on the planet. Date picker, color picker, everything can be done with this change handler. Except for one. Checkboxes. Checkboxes do not have a value. That's evil. So that means that we need to have some sort of a logical split that changes our value to whatever's unchecked. So let's go back over here and we're going to do a Google search. I guess I didn't have to do that. I'm showing my age. And we're going to do HTML checkbox. Oh, these are evil. So evil. Do you have any idea how evil these are? This is the thing that ruins people's lives. And you can blame the guy who invented this. I don't know how long, 1993, 1994, 1995. I don't know when this was invented, but them not having a value in here has screwed up programmers for generations. Like there's people that are retired that struggled with this. There's people that are dead that retired with this. And not like, got into an accident type that. I mean, like, old age, died, that struggled with this. So if you notice, we have an input checkbox, ID equals vehicle, we don't care, name equals vehicle. So yeah, that's probably nice. And they have this value of, say, bike or something. Well, value doesn't do what you think it does. So let me see if I can just put in a checkbox where we're at, because that's not giving me the documentation that I want, and I can teach it probably better than the documentation can. So let's put in another label here. And we're going to say, I solemnly swear I am up to no good. Harry Potter reference, but still funny. And let's do input type of checkbox. And this was, what was it? Accepted. Yeah, accepted is the name. Like that. And let's do our value on the same pattern as what we used before, right? And we're going to do name.accepted. No, it's not name, form. So I have this checkbox. So what happens when we click the checkbox? It should say true and accepted. So we've got accepted as false. We wanted to say true. Let me refresh. I've clicked here. Oh, I haven't put an on change on here. Sorry. Changes. So when we click this, it's going to say, hey, something has changed. Let's put whatever is in value into the accepted field. So if I click on this, accepted, the value turned to false, accepted is false. Accepted is still false, accepted is false, still false. So notice how the value doesn't change anything. Instead, what we're interested in is something called checked. So I'm going to refresh this, And I'm going to go into my elements. So we have this checkbox, name equals accepted. If I check this, now we can't do anything with it because we're not looking at value, we're looking at check. So this value up here doesn't exist. So we're trying to change the check to checked and not checked. So we've got type, and we also need a fourth one, checked. So this is where we're going to start mutating one of these values. So I'm going to say value is going to be equal to the type. If the type is equal to a string value of checked, or checkbox. So if we could look over here, this input type is checkbox. So if it is a checkbox here, we're going to be returning one of two things. If it is a checkbox, we want to return checked. If it's not a checkbox, we want to return the value. So anything other than a checkbox, it's going to return the existing path that we knew worked with dropdowns and text boxes and date pickers and color pickers and whatever else input types there were, except for checked. When the type is equal to checkbox, it's going to say, yeah, this is true, and it's going to run whatever's inside of checked. So input type checkbox, yeah, it's a checkbox. We're going to do whatever's in the word checked. And in this case, there is no check, so it's going to come up with false. So we're going to be returning whatever's in here. So let's see if this works. I might have to reverse my logic. I'm never really great at logic. Everybody knows that. So let's refresh and go back over to the console. And I'm going to check this box and see if it changes based off of whether it's checked or not. So this accepted should turn to true. Oh, I blew it up. Now I've got it set as a constant. I'm just gonna do let. Or I could do const, but take value out and then do let. There. Refresh. All right, so if I click this checkbox, this should be true on accepted. So the next line should say accepted true. Accepted true. So is able to take whatever the state is of this, which is checked as true, because checked is going to exist on our elements. Oh, of course, it's not showing it right now, but usually there would be something that says checked in there. In this case, it's not for whatever reason. But it's able to toggle between true and false. So like it's unchecked, accepted as false, checked, it's true. Okay, this is where it really starts to accelerate. So if you guys don't understand this, now's the time to ask questions because that's the hardest thing on the entire thing. Even yup isn't that hard. Yup is just like a lot of boilerplate to get to what you want to do. There's nothing particularly difficult about yup. And Cypress testing is going to be a breeze, especially after I show you the Konami code of testing.
So what was the mistake that that programmer did?
So like this
Checkbox, he did not give it a like value.
So like the checkbox, if you have something that's set as a value, it's not going to change based off of the state of that checkbox. If the checkbox is checked, it's going to set a value of checked called true. If it's not checked, then the value of checked is going to be false. So we're having to switch our value that we're saving from the value key to the checked key. But only when the type is checkbox.
Mm-hmm. So we switch it on opposite.
Say that one more time.
Do we switch it on opposite? Is it what?
Yeah,
Should
it's not going to be an opposite. If you do an opposite, then it's going to be the opposite value of whatever's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because checked is like by default a Boolean, right?
Yeah.
So the value returns like that, and then yeah. Couldn't you
Yep.
just say let, like put the value back in the top and just say let value right there? Wouldn't it work?
Hey, you would do let value, but the thing is, you'd have like let name type and checked would also be let instead of constant. That's
Wait,
let
does
is
it have to be a let?
yeah, because we're mutating it right on line 20.
But
So you can't reset value because it's a string value.
yeah.
You can't reset it unless it's a let.
Uh,
A chunk of hair trying to drop into my eye. It's getting annoying. All right.
this is one of those times I wrote constant, just changed it.
Yeah, and I even attempted to do that, and I was just like, let me just. I want to be more data safe.
Yeah,
Let-
just make sure.
Lets are naughty. Lets are
Yeah.
naughty. Try to avoid lets and absolutely never say var.
Yeah.
Like remove it from your vocabulary. What did I say? I don't know. So that is literally all you need to do any type of a change on any input type in HTML is that, I don't know, 5 lines of code or whatever, 6 lines of code. With that, you can rule the world, I think, or at least a website, a web page. Okay,
And
so
I'm sure if we forget, sorry, I'm sure if we forget the little syntax going on here, it's just to Google the way, right? For check, just how to put checked, you know?
yeah, there's
Perfect.
lots of articles that are wrong on that, but
Oh, really?
yeah, I swear this thing does not want to. There you go.
You know from personal experience.
I have had to search if you go through some of my older videos because I still forget how to do this every once in a while. Just my
Yeah.
brain dies and like, you know, it's late at night. I've already worked like a full 8-hour shift before this at Williams Sonoma, and
Mm.
then I'm here. So yeah, sometimes my brain needs to reboot. just that much. So I was going to stop my. This isn't stopping like I want it to do. So I'm going to trash it again, and I've never had this many problems stopping an application. So next thing I want to do is I want to deal with Yup. So I'm going to go back to my npmjs.com and I'm going to look up Yup. So there is no weird versioning on this, other than if you click on versions, you're going to notice that it's like 0.3211. Looks like they're going to go with a beta 1 finally. This is all alpha. This thing's been around forever. Like there's 8 years of Yup. I think it's older than that. I think that was just when they added it to the repository. So I'm just going to copy Yup. Going to paste it in here, hit enter. Squeaky chair. And then we're just going to do starter. Start. So if I go back over into that package JSON, you're going to notice that it added in yup. That's all you're doing is you're just gonna refresh this. You're adding it into the package.json file. You're downloading it into the node modules directory. And then it adds a whole bunch of stuff in the package lock JSON, which is way out of scope for anything that you will probably learn at Bloomtech until you're at least in labs. And then you will find out package lock can be kind of a pain. Especially when you have like 40 people with 10 different versions of Node. It becomes fun.
Wait, did you ever add an on submit?
Haven't even tried to submit yet.
Hmm.
We're going to kind of get to that. I guess we probably could just add the submit and make it so the functionality works. You guys want to just get the functionality over with and get the yup done?
Yeah,
Okay,
that'll
because
makes more sense.
that's going to do the Axios page as well and like the state that's what.
Are you gonna post it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Guess what? It's still not closing, so I'm gonna have to trash it again. That's horrible. So,
Are you gonna use one of
Axios.
those fake APIs?
Yeah, I'm gonna use RecRes just like you guys did
Mhm.
because I don't feel like writing an API right now to deal with
What?
Tesla
Come
orders.
on.
Oh, I totally could, but it would
I know,
take me
just kidding.
probably 45 minutes to an hour to get there. So
Yeah, no, it's-
I could even make it so it's authenticated, where it knows what user you are and everything else. So I added Axios. That's one that I trust myself with. But yeah, I double check before I hit go on that. So now we have Axios, another really low version number. I don't know what I changed, but whatever. Refresh. Okay, so other thing that would be super important is to be able to submit this form and get that data somewhere else. So let's make it so that there's a new path. And we're going to say all orders because I can. /orders. Okay, so what type of data are we wanting to have? It's probably going to be an array of orders, right? So we probably want to have some slice of state to store that. And notice that I'm an app. So that slice of state definitely wants to live up here because it has to communicate between the home page, between the order page, and also the number or the orders page. Right, so we can see all orders, and then people can go and egg your house if you, yeah. Oh no, not that. People can find your address online anyway. So we're going to import use state from React. So notice how I didn't have React, comma, use state. So like after like 17 point something React, you don't technically need to import React to make it a React functional component. But if you're running an older version of React, which happens, I've got a couple of clients that are running like 16.8 or whatever, you can't do it that way in 16.8. Why they haven't upgraded, I don't know. So let's do another route inside of here for our orders page. We'll do exact path is equal to orders. And I'm going to make another component because this will get long-winded if we don't. And this, we're just going to call it orders. So let's see if I can do this without having to do the import React. So new way, const orders. So new variable named orders equal to a function. We're going to export default orders. And then we're going to do a props because we definitely will be passing down props. Going to console log my props because I want to know what I'm passing into this. I'm not going to assume that I did it right until I'm done with it, and then I can delete that. We're going to return some JSX, and we're just going to say this is the order page because we're going to fill this out as we go along. So let's save this. We're going to put in our orders. Orders from component orders. I guess that probably could have been components, but I'm not going to rename it now. Too late. And okay. So we're not using use state yet, but we do have this new route, and I can go to all orders and then say this is the order page. So that's great. So when I hit submit, right now all I'm wanting to do is just go to the order page. I'm not resetting anything. I just want to make it so it goes there, and that's part of the routing. That's the last chunk of routing. So in our model, we're going to need something like submit me, or yeah, we'll just say submit. Why not? We're going to need to have an event, and we're going to have this object here, or this function here, execute. So we're just going to leave this blank and just show you what the default behavior is when I put a button in here with then we're going to do a submit button. Sub I don't know, what should we say? Yeah, submit. That's fine. So first off, your submit handler, where does it go? On the button or on the form?
On the form.
Yes.
On the form.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just non-submit, and we're just going to do submit. Might as well, right? So now what this is going to do is this is going to run the function submit. Submit. That's better. This is going to run the function submit. So whatever's in here, it's going to execute. If you notice, there's nothing in here. So it's going to do whatever the default behavior of a form is. And this is where you get in some really cool stuff. So notice how we're at localhost 3000 model Y, obviously. And I do Brian, Gray, I'm up to no good, and I hit submit. Watch what happens up here on this bar. So this expanded it. So this says question mark person equals Brian, ampersand color equals gray, ampersand accepted equals on. So why did it do that? Well, that's the default behavior of your web browser. So we don't want it to put our password and everything up on top if we're on a password form. Do we? In plain text, so that every server between here and the server that caught that API call knows what your password is. No, we want to prevent that from happening. So if we want to prevent the default behavior, how do we do it?
Prevent default.
Yep. Let me first get rid of all that information.
Trick question.
Uh-huh. So this is why we're passing in our event. So it's going to be event dot, I always forget, prevent default. And then we execute that. So now if I do, you know, Elon Musk, I guess he likes red. He's up to no good. Submit. Now it doesn't do anything up here. It doesn't copy that over and then refresh the page with the new information. So that prevent default doesn't happen on every button. It happens on every form submission. So a button doesn't do anything. So you don't have to prevent default on a on-click on a button, for example. So now we can start doing something more interesting. How many people have done something with use history, or at least banged your head up against the wall?
I have not.
So use history is another React Router DOM thing that allows us to tell it where to go. So we're going to put it right underneath here. So const, and we're going to say history equals whatever comes back from use history. I can't type today. So I'm just going to console log history and I'm going to refresh. So we've got all of this stuff. So we got action, pop, block, create it, href, go back, go forward, linked, listen, push. You guys remember push from last month or last unit?
Yeah.
What does push do?
It pushes it into an array
Yeah,
to the end of it, right? Or the new one, whatever
yeah.
your heart
And
desires.
what's really funny is they've also got pop here. So you know, they've got like you know, location, shows our path name. It's got this push thing here. So obviously it does something. Replace, that's different. And stuff like that. So this looks like something where it gives us functionality to use stuff on the use history function. So we've basically said history is equal to whatever use history is. So whenever we look at history, it's literally just executing the use history function. So when we submit, we want to push. If you notice, it says that it's a method, which means that we need to use parentheses. What if we wanted to go to orders? So all I need to do is just push to orders. And then when I hit submit, it goes to the order page. Because I told it to go there. So I was at model Y, I clicked submit, I'm now at orders. I'm at model S, it hits submit, goes to orders.
Oh, and this is like where you would get rid of all that. Like you would just put exact and then you'd put an order form here or something.
No, the order form, the orders is just going to be, the orders is a new page that we made. So all orders here,
Yeah, yeah.
says this is the order page, but we don't have any state holding anything.
Yeah.
But I told it to go here. So I changed the physical path up here to /orders.
Yeah.
But I did it without doing anything else other than hitting submit on this on this form here. And I ran the code in here. So it stopped it from putting whatever up on the URL bar and prevented it from also refreshing the page after it did that. And then it told it, hey, I do want to go somewhere. I want to go to orders. So you can see all the orders that we had coming in.
Yeah, like that. Like it makes sense.
So very simple. So all it is use history from React Router DOM. And then I'm going to get rid of this because we have too many console logs. Way too many console logs. And so we have our EV, which is the whatever car we're looking at buying. So a 3YS, whatever, from use params. The history is using the exact same pattern, except we're not trying to destructure anything from use history. We just want to have history. And anytime that we type history, we want it to run use history.
And what use history gives us? Is it the
So like you could literally just like delete this entire line here. And you could just do, oh, sorry. Actually, I think this will also work. No, I need to use history.push. Oh, it didn't like that. So use state is defined, never use. Yeah, see, it doesn't like it when you do it that way. So
you have to declare it?
yeah, you have to declare it.
Huh. That's odd.
But I was trying something new. Might as well find your flaws while you're live coding, right? So let's make some state to hold all of this. So in our app, we're going to want just an empty array as our state because nobody's bought a car yet. So we're going to say orders, set orders, and we're going to set this equal to use state with just an empty array. So now what we can do is we can actually start using this in here. Please select your car above, and we could do a paragraph tag. It says orders.length served. So right now it's going to say 0 served. If we go to the home page, 0 served. Nobody's bought our cars. So probably what I want is I want to be able to set this orders without passing down anything other than a function. So what we might do is we're going to do const new order is equal to something like that. And we're going to say this is the order that is coming in. And we'll do set orders. And we probably want to put the order first, so it's at the top. Oh wait, this is going to be an array. So we're going to put the order first. Then we're going to do orders, spread orders. So what this is going to do is on set orders, we're going to be replacing orders with a new array. We're going to put whatever the object is that came back from our Axios post into here. And then we're going to put whatever came from our orders up here. So any previous orders go after this. So our array element 0 is now our top order. Or we can put the order at the end. It doesn't really matter. But yeah.
So we can do either way.
Yeah. And that way we don't have to do like a array dot reverse or something to make it correct. So next thing is we're going to need to be able to pass this down to our model. So we're going to new order. Now, remember that every single function is just a fancy variable. It's a first-class variable, just like a string, a Boolean, object, or an array. You can set anything to anything, right? So I can pass this down as state into my model. And all I need to do is just pass in whatever order I want from my form to go back into this. So I don't have to have all my yep state and all this other crap up here. I just have this nice clean what I'm using right now here, because the form state doesn't matter. It would if I was like editing the form or something, but that's stretch. It's a big time stretch. Okay, so we have new order equals order, set orders, order orders, right? So if I save this and I go to my model and I do, let's go ahead and destructure our props a little bit. So we'll do const new order. Oops, this is destructuring props. So now I have a new variable that's set to the function new order in app. And I can run this right after this prevent default. So we'll do set. Oh, sorry, not set. New. And I can just put in whatever is on my form in here for right now, and we'll get to the Axios call here in a second. So if I save this, we've got 0 served. I go to model Y, I hit submit. I go back home and it says 1 served. I go to model 3, I hit submit. I go back to home, it says 2 served. So it's adding things into that state in app. That went fast. I lost everybody. Anybody lost?
We just explain what the orders was doing again?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what we did was we made new state inside of the app that's going to hold whatever state needs to be accessed by these 3 components. So the first component needs to know what its length is. The second component needs to be able to access installing a new order into this slice of state. So I don't need to pass the state down because I don't care what the orders are. And then orders itself is also going to need the orders eventually. So like let's go ahead and put that in there. So and we can get to that here in a second. So when I submit a new model, it stops it from doing funky stuff. It runs new order, which new order is up here. It takes whatever order and whatever was in my form, and it puts it into a new array. And then it spreads whatever was in there, which if it's nothing, then it's nothing. And it only has one element in there. And it puts it into this orders, or these orders. Let's make this a little nicer. So we've got, say, orders. We're going to destructure this from our props. And we can map over this. So and we'll say order something like this. Actually, we don't need a curly bracket because we're just going to be doing JSX. So we're going to return JSX from this function. And we're going to say a div, and we're going to do an h3 with order dot name. And then we'll do a paragraph tag. Oops, I need to do that in curly brackets. And we'll do something like bought a $sign order dot color model. Now we'll go ahead and make it so that it's the whole thing is going to be in there. Order dot model, which doesn't exist. And is up to no good. So this right here is going to be something that would be like a ternary, but they shouldn't be able to get to this point if they weren't up to no good. They have to accept the button, but we haven't done that yet. So if I refresh this and I go to model Y and I say Brian gray up to no good, and I hit submit, it says undefined bought a gray undefined, and it is up to no good. So something's not quite right with this, because it did. Oh yeah, we spread the orders in. Yeah, so I put an order into an order. So because if you take a look, this orders here, this is coming in from over here. Okay, yeah, so that is correct. So this is orders. This is my props.orders. Orders is that. So my orders should have person. Yeah, it's not name, it's person. Let me just see if this works first. Okay, Brian bought a gray undefined. Notice how we have the undefined here. It's because we never changed it to whatever the model is. So we can actually go in to our model whenever we do a submit. And what we might do is have a variable called submitted form and have that equal to whatever came out of form. And then we're going to add in model is equal to, say, model maybe something like that. And then we're going to do submitted form. So now I should be able to refresh, go here. Up to no good. So it should say Brian bought a gray model Y and is up to no good. Brian bought a gray model Y and is up to no good. I also don't have a unique key, but I haven't figured that part out just yet. We'll get there. So what if I go back over to like a model S and I do Val? Honestly, he looks more like a model X person, but we're gonna, what do you think, a black one, Val?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll
Sure.
submit. So notice now we have Val, he's at the top of the list. Brian bought a gray model Y is up to no good. And if I go home, it should say two served. If I go back to orders, I should be able to still see this. If I refresh the page, all of the data gets deleted because, well, it was being stored on the browser, not on a database somewhere, which gets to where we're going to get into post. So if you notice, I'm doing this submitted form. I kind of sort of did this so that I could put this in as to maybe something that was coming from like a database somewhere or an API. So this stuff here is going to be Axios.post. And I believe it is was it recres.io API? Or was it IT? I always forget. API and then users. I always forget the recres direct or endpoint. So, and then we want to pass in whatever we're passing in, which is form. Or you can pass in something like this if you wanted to add more data, is probably more like it. So you might have, we're passing in a new form that has all of the information from form. We've got the model, which is equal to a text value of model S3XY. So we don't even need this variable here. We'll do a dot then. Oops, wrong one. So inside of here, if we do our result, I'm just going to comment these out for a second. No, I'm bad. Import Axios. And I go over here to the model Y. So we'll do test, red, up to no good, and I hit submit. Yeah, it didn't like recres.io. What is the right? In. That's what it is. Go back over here. So let's try submitting this again. So now, if you notice what we're getting back, this is just res. So it's always res.data, right? So res.data is giving us back one, an object, two, all of our data, plus a unique ID and when it was made. So whenever the request was made. So this is giving us more information than we normally would have from just us making a form, because we came in and we said, hey, we sent this to you, give us back that information. That's pretty common to get it from a post request, is it's going to just parrot back what you got, what it sent you, so you can put it into your state. So instead of us console logging this res.data, what we might do is just put res.data straight into our new order. Then history push to orders. And then there's one last bug that we'll fix here in a second. So let's go ahead and clear out all the data that we had in here. We're on a model Y. Brian, I'm going to do a gray one again. And if I submit this, it's going to go to recres and then forward us to the all orders, and we should have that data in the all orders. Brian bought a gray model Y and is up to no good. So it waited before it went to all orders. It waited for us to have that Axios request be done, because the all orders is inside of the then. So when we hit the submit button, we sent the form information and which model they ordered. And then this waited until Axios post was done. It posted the new ordered data to our state and app. and then it changed the route to orders. But there's a little bug here. So if I go to Model Y here, oh, okay, it did clear out the Model Y. Yeah, that's weird. It shouldn't have cleared that out. But if we wanted to clear out that data, all we'd need to do is set form to initial state. Don't ask me why it worked.
Maybe it was the wrong car.
Was it? I bought a gray Model Y.
Oh, that was a Model Y. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, normally that shouldn't do that. I have no idea why it did that. Maybe it's some new thing inside of React that nobody's told me about.
Maybe
But-
it's the new form.
Hmm?
Maybe it's because you're pushing a new form, like dot form.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, I hadn't changed any of the state on it. So that state should still exist in that component. Should, air quotes. All right, so that's the basic pattern to doing a basic form. It's a very common pattern, and the difference is usually I would trigger some sort of a re-pull from the data, because what if, you know, somebody's got this on their on like 50 different web browsers, they're ordering 50 different cars, and they all had send 3 minutes apart. Then if you all loaded the page at the exact same time and then submitted them 3 minutes apart, it would just show yours on the list, so that, oh, they've only sold one, until you refresh the page and got the new information. But if you got the information after you submitted it again, the entire list, then you would have the most up-to-date information. And that's more of a next month thing. That's what we would call client server state. And we don't really get into how to do it, even though it's not really difficult. It's more of, we're trying to figure out ways of not prop drilling down a large application. So your state might live in app, but you don't have to send it as props. You can just bring it in whenever you need it. That's what we're going to learn next unit. It's not particularly difficult, but it is time consuming to learn. So that's global state. So that's going to be Redux and context. Okay, so let me save this, make sure it didn't break anything. Cool, it didn't break anything. Let's start involving Yup in this this wonderful thing, and then we can get to a quick round of Cypress. Cypress will take like 30 minutes, like not very much. Yup might take a little bit more than 30 minutes. This is probably going to be one of the longer sessions. So we've got our initial form, our initial state, right, for our form. So our initial form values. If so if we're wanting to bring in Yup, we're going to need to bring in Yup, and we're going to bring in everything as Yup. So it'll be Yup dot whatever. And the first things that we're going to want to do is to set a schema. So all a schema is a new variable named form schema. In this case, you can call it Barbie, it doesn't matter. It can literally be called anything that you want. But this just makes more sense to call a form schema. So we're going to be accessing this variable, Yup. Yup dot object dot shape. So now the shape we want it to be this exact shape that's in this state here. So I'm going to just copy and paste this in. And this is going to be literally the exact same keys. And technically they are the same values. We're going to tell it what they are, not necessarily defining them like this. So person, we're going to want to be a yep string. Now, we want this to be only have let's see. I guess we just need to do a minimum for your name, right? So what do you guys think? 4 characters for your name? Because you got a first and that last name.
Yeah, sounds
So we'll
good.
do a minimum of 4, and then whatever our error message is. Name is too short, blame your parents, right? So this other one, notice how this is also a string value. So this is going to be another yep dot string. And remember, this is the drop down. So this one, we would just want to have a minimum character of 1. And we can do, please select a color, something like that. Now, this is the tricky one. This is the one that threw me off for the longest time. So we all know that this is a yep dot boolean. Now, there's this function called one of. And this takes 2 things, an error. Must be up to no good to buy a Tesla. And what this is going to do is this is saying that it has to be either true or false. In this case, we only want true to be allowed. So if it's true, then we're going to say there's no error. If it's false, then there's going to be an error. Make sense? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of code in here for disabled. So my initial state, I want it to be disabled. And this button, or this is going to be the value on the button. So we're going to do just basically disabled equals disabled. So if disabled is true, then you can't click on it. So our natural state of this should be disabled. So and because it's true, we won't be able to select it. So notice I can't click on it anymore. That's horrible. Let me go back over to orders just one second, and we're going to do p equals. Let's shut it up. Okay, so model. So we can no longer click on this button because disabled is set to true. If we set it to false, then we can click on it. And that's just a chunk of state. Slice of state. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's make the disabled button work. So the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need a side effect to run. And so I'm going to do a use effect. And I'm going to run this function anytime form changes. So when the form changes, I'm going to be calling whatever came back from the form schema. And we're going to use a function called isValid. So what isValid does is it says, hey, is this form good to go, or are there still problems with this form? So we're going to pass in our form into isValid. And that's going to be returning a promise. And this is going to send back if it should be enabled. So if we set disabled to enabled, that's going to do the opposite of what we want. So whenever it's not valid, it's going to be the same as enabled. So we want to have that so it's not enabled. So disabled is not enabled. And if it's enabled, then we want it to be disabled. So enabled is true. That means that disabled needs to be false. It still screws me up to this day. So without anything else, this gets us to the button part. So there's Brian, select my color, gray, and I'm up to no good. Now that button is ready to go. So it's been validated already without having to do validate, change, and all this other stuff, right? That part is to get your error messages in. So now your error messages, this is where it starts to get a little tiny bit convoluted. I don't know, I don't have the right word. Convoluted? Is that even a word? I think I'm losing my mind. So we're going to want error and set error. And we're literally going to be copying in this this initial state here, just like we did on form schema, except all of these need to be string values. So this accepted equals false. This thing needs to be a string value. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to put in an error message on these lines here. So what I might do is break this into JavaScript, turn them into a string literal, and do $ error.person right there. Error.color. And instead of here, we're going to do, I missed it. Error.accepted. So we haven't actually set any errors, but we've made it so it can display it. So if I backspace over this, there is now technically an error in the system somewhere saying your name's too short, blame your parents. Pretty sure that's how I said it. Yeah, your name is too short, blame your parents. So for us to be able to change the error messages, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get a little tiny bit more creative with our change handler. So when a change happens on changes, we're going to probably want it to run another chunk of code. And we're going to call this validate change. So this is going to be equal to a function And we're going to want to pass in our name and our value. Okay. Name and value are getting passed into validate change. So we only care about what part of the array are we looking at to validate and if the data is correct. So in order for us to do that, what we have to do is we have to do what we call a yup reach. So what a yup reach does is it's going to take in whatever schema you have. So in this case, form schema. And we're going to pick off the key. In this case, we're going to call it name. So from there, once we've reached, we know which key that we want to compare to in form schema. Now we need to compare whatever value was changed. So in this case, we're going to do a validate. Validate. So yup reach, yup validate. And in the validate, we're going to pass the value that changed whenever we hit an event. So if we clicked, anything, or typed anything, or selected a dropdown, it's going to tell us what that value of the dropdown was, or when you type something in a text box or click to checkbox, or click to checkbox or click the down, the dropdown. So from there, it's going to give us a promise. And so if the promise succeeds, that says that there are no errors. And if it fails, it's going to give us back an error. So a .then is the clean path. It will run a function where we're going to set our errors. And an error is an object. We're going to want to spread whatever errors are in there, if they're empty strings or errors. And we're going to replace the one with an empty string. So we're going to be able to do name, because that's square bracket notation again, just set it back to an empty string. So this is what happens when that form field is valid. We just set error. So this is just straight up, not yet. This is just going into our set error. And let's say the person is now validated, and it sets it back to a string. If they backspace over stuff, this says your name's too short, blame your parents. So now's the time to put in the way of saying name's too short, blame your parents. We do that with catch. So now this catch is going to have a it's going to be passing into this callback an error. So same thing as what we did right above. We're going to spread our error. And we're going to be putting in our name. And then this is where it gets a little weird. So error coming from here is going to have an errors object. And inside of that errors object, in the 0th element of the array is going to be a string that has the latest error. If I save that, oh, we also need to call it. Then this is going to run, I guess it really doesn't matter where I run it, but validate change, and I'm going to pass in our name and our value. So now if I type in Brian, my backspace, is your name too short, blame your parents. If I select red and then go back, then it says, please select a color. Select your colors, please select a color. And if I go to check this, then you must be up to no good to buy a Tesla. Let me refresh that because it said undefined, didn't it? Weird. Yeah, see now these are saying undefined after that, so that's weird. Am I not spreading that in there correctly? I have a bug somewhere in here. Oh, yeah. Right there. This probably should be called errors or something. But anyway, so I reduced this to error because it was overwriting our error. So let's refresh. I found my own bug. Nice. So name is too short. Red. Please select a new color. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. You must be up to no good to buy a Tesla. So let's kind of make that a little prettier while we're at it. We can probably put this into a span. Seriously, just delete that. All right, so something like this. And what I might do is go into my CSS and then make all spans red. That. Yeah. So you must be up to no good to buy a Tesla. So I can put a span around everything else. Let me check this and see if it looks good. Okay, so that looks good. We'll do the final styling when we finally get this thing done. But we're gonna put this onto all of these. Don't know why I didn't do this at first, but refactoring code's always fun. And then color here. All right, so this should have the correct styling. Okay, refresh. Red, not red. And then check mark, not check mark. Okay, name's too short, blame your parents. Please select a color. You must be up to no good to buy a Tesla. All of the above. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's all for making yep work. We want to do
Yep.
a 5-minute let everybody do the bathroom break and then we'll come back.
Yep.
Let me start a 5-minute timer. All righty. I'll see y'all here in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. Everybody here? We lost a few people. Hi, Cat. Okay, well, okay, so first off, we just covered a whole lot of stuff. There has to be questions. Does anybody need different explanation or step through or any of that, or seem to make more sense?
The spread operator.
Okay, so the spread operator is pretty simple. So let's say that I just have like just a regular variable, right? This isn't a React thing. And we're just going to call this an object. So let's say that I said something like, well, this would have to be a let. Let's say I said object is equal to a new object with whatever was an object, but I'm adding in or I'm replacing test, sorry, with this is not a test. So if I console log this, hope this isn't a side effect. And yeah, so this is not a test. But if I were to console log it before, we should have this is a test, this is not a test. So if I wanted to add something to this object, like person, right? This is right. Yep. Missed the closing bracket. Oh, I put the closing bracket all the way over there. Jeez. All right. So yeah, console log it. No, not constant. Again. So we've got I want to refresh so we get a fresh thing. So we've got this is a test on this first one. So this is just console logging whatever this object is. Then we've reset object to be object.test is this is not a test. So what we've done is we have put whatever was in object into here. So if you'll notice, if I get rid of this is not a test, but we leave that spread object in there, all it's going to do is just make a copy of this object. So it says this is a test. This is a test. This is a test. This is a test. So we haven't modified anything in this object. But typically what you'll see is a common pattern is you might have, like, say, yeah, I'm going to use a vowel again. I need a comma. You know, so we've got an object. We're spreading the object in there, which isn't doing anything other than making a copy and setting it to itself. console logging it. But what's going to happen here is this object is equal to whatever was in object up here, which means test and not in person are in here. But then it's replacing whatever person was with this new value and then console logging it out. So the first two is going to say Val, and then it's going to say, hi, this is Brian. So let's refresh. So this is a test person, Val. This is a test person, Val. This is a test person. Hi, this is Brian. So that's the spread syntax in a good example. So to explain what it does a little bit better is this is the original object where we didn't do anything, right? So it's just console logging the object. So we haven't spread anything or anything else. When we spread, we're making a new object by putting two parentheses or two brackets here. And then we're spreading whatever was in this object as data, as straight up data, like it's brand new key value pairs, being, for lack of a better word, pushed into this object. Now, when we push it into the object and then we put new information after it, like this one here, where the person got changed to, hi, this is Brian this last time. So we had spread, this is a test and person into this new object here. But then we replaced person. So it had this is a test and then person is Val, but then it said person, hi, this is Brian last. So since an object can't have more than one key that's named the same, it took the latest one in that stack. So it overwrote that last person. Make sense? And
Yeah.
same thing with arrays. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice easy array. Console log array. And then I can also console, we can also do just array. Array equal to array spread array. So what we're doing is we're making a brand new array. And then inside of that, we're spreading whatever was inside of that. So we're making a copy of the array and then saving it back to the array. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, but we're there. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, when we console log it, it's still going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. But we
So
have,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but we've destroyed the original 1, 2, 3, 4 and replaced it.
Yeah. So when it's state, you're just
Well,
basically-
state is just state.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything other than replace state like this. So that's why I'm showing you like this,
right.
because otherwise I'd have to start doing side effects and whatever. So
Yeah.
what if I wanted to add something to an array? So I could do array equals, because a spread is not React at all.
Yeah.
So
It's JavaScript.
it's just JavaScript. So what if I wanted to put in my name is Forrest Gump, comma, spread array. Will it allow me to do that? Of course it will.
Well, put it at the end.
And then we also need a console log it. Yeah, I'll put it at the beginning
Oh, why?
because it's at the beginning.
Oh,
Or are you
if you
talking
did
about the array? It'd be my name's Forrest Gump 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
because the dot is at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, so if you did it backwards, it would just do it the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's why it doesn't matter with objects because it's just keys.
Yep. Because
So
if you put it the other direction, like let's say I put the ... object
Yeah.
like at the end here, nothing would change.
Yeah, because it's just keys and you're just overriding keys.
Yeah, whichever is the last one in that order is the one that wins.
Key value. Okay.
So you'll notice that let me refresh sensor.
So that's why on submit, you'll just push. That's why you have to do it like that.
Yep.
Because you're gonna override the keys and then you're gonna reset the keys back to normal.
Yep. Notice how it's still val.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can't do it that way. Well, you can, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't know what override.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not smart enough to know it just goes whatever's last.
Hmm.
So if you've got two persons in the same object, it's going to take whatever's the last one is. Kind of like in CSS, if you had like, a body tag at the end and it had color red, it doesn't matter what the body tag at the beginning says.
Yeah.
It could be body blue, color blue. It's still going to be red because the last one overrode it.
Hmm.
Wait, so if you're doing with an object, I thought you could just put it anywhere when it's an object.
No.
It has to be at the beginning.
The spread needs to be at the beginning and then you can put it in because it's whatever's the
Oh.
last one wins.
Oh, I see. Because then it'll just think like you want what it's already there. You're gonna copy what's already there.
Yeah.
If you put it at the end.
Yeah, and in an array, it just puts it in whatever order you put it in. So like,
Oh,
if I did spread array and then
that
put my
makes
name
so
as
much more
Forrest.
sense. That's why you put it at the beginning and then you basically say, I want to change this object and update it with this key and this value.
Yeah.
On event.target.
Yep, pretty much.
You're targeting those values and then updating it with, yeah, okay. Wow.
Spread syntax.
Yeah, that's
Believe
quite the
Believe it or not, you learned that the first week in JavaScript.
wait, when? We didn't learn that.
It was Thursday
And
in
unit
in,
one?
in unit 1. First
We
week.
didn't learn that.
Yep, you absolutely did.
What?
Go back
Who
and
taught
watch
us
the
that?
video. Kieran. Absolutely did.
Oh, we had a sub.
Oh, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, spread syntax is
I wouldn't have understood it anyways if you taught it.
oh no,
day
nobody
4.
does, but
Yeah.
I always love to say that. Oh yeah, absolutely you did. No, I don't remember doing anything.
No.
I'm like, I know you were still trying to figure out how to use get.
Screw get
So
bar.
how far have you come?
Right. It's kind of, I was saying that today. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Like I have this picture in my phone from like 5 months ago or something.
Yeah.
And it's my first line of code. It just says, how am I doing this? That's it. Honest. I was like,
Yeah, it's getting better, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay, so I haven't styled it. It's ugly, but it's testable. Sort of. So let me get rid of all of this stuff because it's just getting in my way. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new terminal. And I'm going to type in npx Cypress open. Now, npx Cypress open should already install it for you. If it complains, then you just do a npx Cypress install. If it still complains after that, you can do an npx Cypress -- force, and that should do it. Then you can do an npx Cypress open. So what's npx Cypress open is going to do is it's going to install Cypress if it hasn't already. It's going to make a new directory called Cypress wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you're actually in the project that you want or not. It is not smart enough to know that. It will make a directory wherever you are. So if you're on your desktop and you didn't mean to be on your desktop and you typed npx Cypress open, you will now have a Cypress directory on your desktop. It is not bright. So make sure you're in your root so that when you do actually submit your work that there is a Cypress folder in there, we will be looking. Go on that, and this is going to download a bunch of stuff. Yes. install it, create a new folder called Cypress up here, and then run Cypress. Eventually. I should have done this at the beginning so that we could just leave it running. Still going.
When you run tests, do you have to have your host open? Your local host in our case?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, because I also won't know.
Yeah, it's an end-to-end test.
And do you have to have a base URL?
Well, you just have to have something you visit.
Oh,
like-
in the site visit, right?
Yeah, site.visit
Alright.
could be Google.
Yeah, yeah.
You could test Google's website if you want with this.
Make sure they're doing good.
Make sure they're not messing up. So like you could actually have a Cypress where you run it and see if you're on the first page of search results when you search for your company name. If it's not, then it throws a red error.
Oh, yeah, it would just be, yeah. I don't know what it would
Absolutely
be,
could.
but
You absolutely could do that with the Google search.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, I think, yeah. That's what I was doing last night, just Google searching.
Hey, look, it loaded, but congratulations, we now have Cypress running. So notice how we have the Cypress directory and then we have integration, all this other stuff. But technically, none of this is really honestly needed. Sometimes it'll have an integration folder, sometimes it won't. I don't remember exactly what it was. Somebody decided to change it where there wasn't any integration tests or whatever. So I'm going to do a new file underneath the integrations folder because I'm organized. And I'm just going to call this order spec.js since I'm doing an order. And spec.js is sort of just telling us that it's a test file. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to do an it. And an it always takes two arguments. A string that says what it is, and a function is what it does. So I'm going to do a sanity check. And effectively, all I'm going to do is I'm going to do an expect statement with something in it, like, I don't know, 7 plus 11. And we're going to expect this to equal, was that 18? I can't do math this late. So if I save this, I drag my Cypress back over here, and I go into order spec.js. I click on this. This is going to open way full screen on my gigantic monitor. Not what I wanted. This wonderful thing. So this is going to do the sanity check. And if you click on this, it says expected 18 to equal 18. So all you're doing is you're just saying, what do you think is going to happen if I do this? I expect it to do this. So if I go to Google, I expect it to go to Google, right? I don't expect it to go to, you know, somebody hijack Google's website. I was going to just move that off because that's going to get kind of out of the way. So next thing that I'm going to do is I'm probably going to want to write a suite. I'm going to move this back over. It's going to be annoying switching back and forth like that. We're going to want to run a suite. Hold on, let me stop this. So if I want to do a test suite, what that is a describe. So you remember where you would have like 2 test suites and it had like a ton of things that you needed to do with a whole bunch of, you know, menu items and all kinds of stuff. And it was just tedious with that last sprint in unit 1. And you had 2 separate test suites, one for each file. Each one of those files is actually a describe. So what a describe is the exact same thing as an it. So they take the same number of parameters. The difference is the describe is going to contain certain things like a before each and a bunch of its, or an after each, or there's other ones as well. But before each is the one that you're going to be using a lot of. So you're going to see this pattern where every single one of these functions takes a function. And it's going to get old very quickly. So on your before each, this is where you're going to do your sci.visit, not crypto. So if we do a sci.visit and we pass in our home page here, copy. Come on. Get back over there. And we go to localhost port 3000, which is exactly where we're at right here. I literally just selected that, copied it, and pasted it. Then this is going to visit every single time that it does an it, it's going to run this before each. So it, and you could do something like, can visit the home page, something like that. So it's already gone to the web page. So all we need to do is just see if it's on the home page by doing something that's only on the home page. So we can do like a sci.contains. Match case. Welcome. Please select your car above. Like that. So what I can do is I'm not writing tons of tests. I'm just writing one at a time, saving it, going back over to my Cypress, wherever I put it. I made sure it could visit the home page. So before each it visited, yeah, that worked. And it contains welcome, please select your car above. So it went to my server and ran the website and then said, yeah, it works. Based off of welcome, please select your car above. So that's pretty boring. Let's do something more interesting. It can order a Model Y. So we're going to make this thing order a Model Y. So we already know that it can visit the page. That's pretty cool. So if we go here, notice how we just have all of these anchor tags here, but none of them are like really individually selectable. Like what if we put these in different orders? What if the SEC said we can't have S3XY, that has to be in alphabetical order with a 3 at the end, right? So we wouldn't be able to say, oh, we want the second anchor tag for the Model 3, because the Model 3 would now be at the end, right? It wouldn't make any sense. So there's this thing, kind of like that data style attribute, called a data test ID. So what a data test ID is it's going to give you something that you can uniquely identify on this page as belonging to a test routine. So we could call this go home. And I'm going to do the other ones similar to that. So Go orders. Go Y. Go X. Go 3. Go S. Right? So if we want to model Y, we're going to want to access this attribute, this data test ID attribute. So what you can do is a scigit, which is mysteriously like a query selector. And so if I just put square brackets around this, this is going to give me a data test ID go Y. If I save this, it's going to run the test. And if you look, it says, can I get this? And if I zoom in, if it'll let me, no, it won't. That's horrible. Make it go like that. All right, so welcome, please select your car above. Notice how if I'm hovered over this, it says Model Y. I guess I haven't selected. It goes to the page. It finds the page, it goes to Model Y, and it gives us a green check mark because it's already determined that you can go to Model Y. So now if I do something like model.click, should be able to click on it as well. So here's the click. And if I hover over this, it says what happens before and after, before, after. So it says it clicked and it went somewhere else. So we also want to check to see if it went somewhere else because it's not smart enough to know that anything's happened. So we might want to do that sci contains. And we might say model Y. Or maybe it's probably to do the whole thing, right? So model Y order form. Yeah, Model Y order form with capital O, capital F. So we're looking to see if it contains Model Y order form down here in the bottom, and it does. So we can just hover on it and it sees that there's an order form there. So what we might also want to do is we might want to check to see if this button is disabled, right? So if we do a submit button, what we can do is we can make this so that it runs a function whenever we want, because we want this to be able to run anytime that we want. So right now, if we just set it equal to whatever it is, we would then have to make another variable to determine what it is later. So after we've clicked, we have to get another submit button and everything else. So on this, we're going to do a Cypress.get. And we need to go over and take a look at our submit button on our model page. So when we're looking here, I guess we could probably just do a type of submit, but what if there was more than one form on that? I'm going to start sounding like a broken record. We can do a data test ID of order submit. We just made it. It's brand new name. So we pass this into here and we put square brackets around it. And now it should be able to get a submit button, but we want to make this so that we can execute it anytime we want. So all we need to do is turn this into a function that returns this. So all we've done is made a new function. And this function basically returns that side get, whatever it is at that time. So we don't have to store a variable more than once, just for the same button. And it's just reusing code a little drier, a little cleaner. So what we might do is we want this button to be disabled. So what we can do is we can execute this function, which is going to do a side get right here. Then we can do a should. And inside of the should, we can do a b.disabled and save it and see if it's a disabled button. So in this case, it goes down to the bottom and it says expected button to be disabled, and it is. So we're still green. So now if I go and I put in some more information into this, let's go back over into the model and say we're trying to do like the name, right? So on this input box, notice how I have this data test ID again. And we could say order name. Sounds good. Copy this. And we could do const name, well, order name. Put it in square brackets. So now this is going to get our order name. And we could probably even just not even do that. And we could just, we can shortcut it and do a type. So this is going to type in something in here. Who's got a character name they like?
Snowball from Rick and Morty.
So who is it?
Snowball.
Yeah, Snowball. I think you were still kind of muted when you first started. So I heard Owlball or something.
Owlball.
Yeah, so we've got Snowball. So what this is going to do is, if I save this, you're going to see that it typed the word Snowball in here. Sorry that I can't zoom in any better.
That's good. We can see it.
So the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to be able to select the drop down. So let's put in the drop down. Yeah, it's model. And we're going to need to put in a data test ID. So this is going to be order color. Now this I'm going to actually have to look up because I don't think I've tested this on Cypress. So Cypress drop down, select. Yeah, so we're going to do a scikit on whatever the selector is, then dot select whatever the option is. So we're going to be doing capital red. So we're going to do a sci.get for order color. So this is going to be our select. And we're going to want to select red. So if I save this, this should select red. I get into the right one. Yeah, so it selected red. So it did the get, and then I clicked on there and it selected red. Now, the easy one. So we've done a type, a select. We're going to do a test ID, but it's not going to be called order name. We're going to say order accepted. So if I do this right here, it's going to complain. Notice how it's trying to get that, and it's errored out. It says that there isn't an order accepted. That says that something is broken in the path. So we'll go back over here and we look over here and we say, oh, this doesn't have a data test ID of order accepted. It didn't exist. It didn't know what to select. So we're going to run the tests. So it's able to get that, but we haven't clicked yet. So how do we click? What do you guys think it would be called?
I don't know.
Click, click.
Click. All right. So now it's got this. So notice how this is no longer disabled. So now what we can do is we can run submit button should, and you would say, you know, be disabled. Okay, well, be enabled, right? No, it's going to be not be disabled. So now this should pass that last little test. Says expected button to not be disabled, which it's not. So now we can just do submit button, execute it, click, and save. So now if I open this up, I go to this click, it clicks there, and then it goes to here. It says Snowball bought a red Model Y and is up to no good. So we want to make sure that Snowball bought a red Model Y and is up to no good. So what I can do is I can just copy this. And I can do a sci contains on this. Copy, paste it. And we know that it made it to the last page here because it said Snowball bought a red Model Y and is up to no good. Well, we're still not quite done testing this because there's another page here where it said one served. We want to see if it says one served, don't we? Because we did a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
So what we could do is we can go back over to this app.js, and we've got this data test ID go home. And we could do a scigget again, square brackets, paste, dot click. Then we can do sci contains, and we could do one serve. Well, I clicked one, go home.
Is not we should put there like
We never executed click. I figured it out. All right, So it clicks, it goes to the new URL, and then it looks for one served and it finds it. That's enough to pass the sprint. It's not enough to pass the stuff that I would have to do, because I would have to put in like the submit button should be disabled like in between everything. Like all of that would have to be in there. Yeah, see, it's still exploded. Oops, it needs to be here. Save. But they would want me to test every single order of these buttons to make sure that if you check the button first, it doesn't need to be in that order for you to have it fail. So like if you click the accept button, but everything else has failed, then it should still not let you click. So you might have specific it tests just for your button that's disabled or not disabled. And you might have where you're wanting to test every single color to make sure it comes up. And you might have where you're where you test the model S, X, and Y on the same component to make sure that the workflow works from the home page. So you click on the model S instead of the model Y. And you might have where you might be looking to make sure that everything is disabled when you backspace or if you delete all your things and the error messages show up. So it's disabled and there's an error message only after you've typed. So you want to make sure that there's not an error message first, and then after you type and then remove the typing, the error message should go there. I mean, things like that are what you would have to write tests for. So you might have like 500 lines of tests for something like this.
Brian, who gives you these requirements for testing?
The company that I work for in the morning.
So-
If I don't do that, then you have things called code coverage. So if your code coverage is not high enough, typically in my company, it's 80% coverage, then you need to write more tests and figure out what is not being tested. And usually it'll tell you what's not being tested. And different companies make things for that. So the one that we use is SonarQube. And it just says, hey, how maintainable is the code? How how much of it was actually tested, things like that.
Mm-hmm. But you still use Cypress for testing, right?
Well, technically we use Jest and something called Puppeteer, but Cypress is easy. If you know Cypress, then you can use Puppeteer. If you know Jest, you can use Cypress. If you know Cypress, you might be able to get Jest pretty quickly. But Jest is kind of like a really easy way of testing things. It requires almost no brain power. That's why I try to wait till last, because I think if I tried doing last, just keeping track of everything would be difficult. It's not hard. It's just there's a lot of boilerplate in yep. But this pattern works really well, and it's something that you can actually use in the industry. And what company you will work for, I don't even know if they'll even use Jest or Cypress or Puppeteer or something else. There could be a billion different things that they will use. There's so many testing utilities out there, it's not funny.
Maybe they would have a quality assurance guy who would do testing instead of you.
I do have a quality assurance person, but I still need to write the tests.
Hmm.
All they do is verify that my tests were sufficient.
Wouldn't they supposed, if they're like automation specialists, wouldn't they supposed to write the testing for you, like in other companies? I think.
We don't have an automation tester.
That's why, I guess.
But pretty much the testing, I try to say it's kind of like cleaning the toilet. Everybody needs to clean the toilet, taking out the trash and then putting a trash liner back in. So most developers don't really see it as a part of their normal daily operation. It's just sort of like, oh, I need to do this. For me, I love it. I hate it, but I love it. But nobody wants to take your trash out. It's like you can't go to your next door neighbor and say, hey, I'm sorry, but my trash can's full. Can you change my trash can for me? What are they going to do? They're going to laugh, close the door on you, and probably save that Ring doorbell camera of you saying that and post it online. Same thing's going to happen to you if you get into a job and you don't know how to do testing. If you're not any good at it, that's totally different. They're willing to help you, but you need to know how to do testing. Even if you're no good at it, it's better than nothing. The kid who takes the trash out and leaves a trail of soda pop behind him, but still puts the bag back in, is better than the kid that didn't take the trash out at all. Just make sure to mop after you're done. So, but yeah, it's taken more like a chore than anything else. Any other questions?
Looking good, looking good.
I told you that wouldn't take more than like 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, the testing is easy.
Yeah.
Not easy, but everything can be figured out.
Yeah, it's not hard. That's for certain. It's a matter of being able to know what to look up and maybe memorizing a few little things here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think that I've written this specific project about 8 times and posted them to YouTube. I don't think the tests are always identical.
Yeah.
And I've gotten better over doing it 8 times.
So like when you say dot click, like a button dot click should contain, like say you're clicking Model X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just should basically, like on click, it should contain these words. That's basically saying it's changing the page and going to the page we want it to.
Yeah, so when you click, it clicks on the button.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing if it goes to the Model Y or order form, because this basically just says, does the document contain Model Y order form?
Yeah. Okay.
And then this one here basically just makes a submit button function that you can run whenever.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think you could actually move this above everything and it would still work because it's only run when you execute it. Yeah. So like this doesn't matter where you put it because it's just a function. You just made a new function.
Yeah.
So like if we did it something, more like, this, it makes it look a little easier. So all we did was make a new function that returns this when we run it. And then you run it like here. But it doesn't exist here. Go Y. It doesn't exist here. It does exist here. And it does exist here.
Yeah. Nice.
Brian, I wonder, how do they measure your work? Do you need like to write 500 lines of code each month, or how do they determine if you work enough?
If I did that, they would probably fire me. Because I don't do what people would call K-locks. So used to back in the 80s, people were hired to certain companies for the number of lines of code they could write. So they would call it a K-lock. So 1,000 lines of code, KLOC. What that did was just made a lot of bloated software more than anything. So instead, what we do is, as a group, we determine what work needs to be done. We break it into small chunks so that it can be done easily. We then point the stories, and once you've pointed the stories, then you bring them into a sprint, like a 2-week process, and we have a 2-week sprints where I work, and we basically just pick one off of what we would call the backlog, move it into production, or move it into in process. And when it's in process, what that does is that says that I'm working on this, nobody else needs to be working on this. So it's just your signal to saying it's assigned to me and don't touch it. So let's say that it's a 3-pointer. A 3-pointer, all it means is how much you think it's going to be when you estimated the story. And at the end of a sprint, you determine how many points were consumed during that sprint. So if you brought in, say, 50 points in a sprint, then your team is measured by how many points you got out of those 50 points. And it's a measurement of how well you can estimate how much work you can get done in a certain amount of time. And basically you have a management person who's in there who agrees that that is an appropriate amount of work that needs to be done for the amount of cost that your team requires to keep operational.
So it's like pretty much similar to what we're like doing in labs in Bloomtech. And then do you use some kind of management tool like Jira?
Jira.
You use Jira?
Yep. Some places use Jira, some people use Asana, but in general it's Jira. If you're running a strict sprint, then you're going to be running sprints instead of Kanbans. But I think Labs is on Kanbans, but it's still Jira. But it's
like
the same basic idea.
Like Trello cards moving from one file to another.
Yep, same exact thing, but just with a sprint, there's a definite end. Where with a Kanban, there is no end. There's you don't specifically say, hey, I need to get this much work done in this much time, because in labs you have people who have different schedules. They work during the day, they don't work during the day. You might have a pull request that sits there for 3 weeks, things like that, right? And hopefully it doesn't take 3 weeks to get a pull request through. But if you've got a pull request that's sitting there for more than a day, then you're like, hey, did everybody go on vacation? What's up? So the idea is that a certain amount of work is supposed to be done during a certain amount of pay. And that's the reason why they usually will use a Scrum type system to determine if your team is getting value or not, based off of what the product owner has said would be valuable for that amount of time. And you can't compare one team's velocity or how many points they get to another team's, because they estimate differently. What one team might consider a 1, another team might consider a 3. So you might have one that has like 162 points in a week, has 3 people on it, versus one that has 6 people on it and they only get 50 points in a week or 20 points in a week.
Mhm.
And they might even do the exact same amount of work.
Does it mean that seniors developers expect to, to be done like more story points
So
than juniors?
not exactly. Depends. So typically the junior developers are going to be doing most of the work because we're trying to train you up to be a senior developer. So we will give you tasks you won't know how to do, and we expect you to ask for help and say, hey, I have no idea how to do this. I can't even get my environment up and running on my laptop. So I would have to go and help get the environment up and running first, and then walk them through how to get started on their ticket and ask them what they know, what they don't know, and determine whatever they need. Now, I am still required to also do the same amount of work, possibly more than a junior dev, in addition to those duties. But that is part of senior dev is typically a management role, but also an individual contributor role. So it's like the intro to management. Then once when you go up to like a dev 2 or something, they really want you to know your stuff. And they want you to basically be able to fix any problem, still ask for help, of course, but any problem that you run across. You should be able to figure it out if you do enough searching and messing around with the system. You should be able to fix it all by yourself if you needed to, but you still need to be able to ask for help.
I wonder, do they fire junior developers for not, knowing enough or something, like in your experience? Or it's
I
more
haven't seen anybody get fired. So typically if you're going to get fired from a junior position, that means that you are arguing with somebody who is significantly more experienced with you. So like the architect decided that they wanted to go with React and Express, but you're questioning their judgment and you think they should have gone with Angular.
right.
And you get really vocal and you stop doing your work because you want to do it in Angular. That's
Yeah,
a pretty good way of getting fired, and that happens.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, of course, it's juniors should not argue and everything. I'm just like
Yeah.
saying it's not because of their skills, but because of their,
It's
soft-
usually an attitude problem. So like I can tell you that I know one person who argued about React was using class-based components in the company that they were working for. And they argued day in, day out that they only wanted to do functional components, and they started pushing functional components to the system. And it wasn't that functional components are wrong or inferior or anything like that. The company didn't want them at all. They don't want to use hooks. They don't want to use anything. They only want to use class-based components. And so they're very picky on how they do their React. And that's not my decision. That's somebody that gets paid a lot more money than I do, and I get paid pretty well. And so for you to go and say, well, I know it's a requirement for us to do this, but F you, I'm going to do it myself, doing it this way, and I'm going to go in, behind their back and do it. They're going to get a talking to, and they're going to get written up, what they call a PIP. And if you get a PIP, you need to correct whatever you're doing. If you get a second PIP, you're probably losing your job. Like if they keep you on, it's only because they need somebody pushing buttons. So you usually will get plenty of notice that you don't know what you're doing and maybe should stop doing whatever you're doing to make somebody mad. But in general, No, if you don't know what you're doing, then that's whoever hired you's fault, and your team needs to bring you up to speed.
I see.
If you can't be brought up to speed, then yeah, you're probably not going to be long for this world. But the thing is most of the time they're just looking for growth. They want you to grow. They don't want you to stay as a junior developer. They want you to become a senior developer and stay with them.
I see. That's interesting. Thank you for explaining what's going on behind the scenes, you know.
Oh yeah. Any other questions, anyone?
Gonna go rob the sprint.
Oh, that sounds like something that should happen. We'll see how you do. I think you'll do fine.
I think so too. I don't know if I'll finish. I mean, it depends how long I work tonight, you know. It depends.
Maybe Jordan already did it. Like,
Jordan's got it like in the background. He's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like,
look at his
just gonna-
smile.
I'm just gonna sit on the couch. I just have to hit the go button on pushing it, and I'm done. So, all right. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. We'll see you next week, and I think we got build week, so always fun.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank-
great night. Thank
See
you very
y'all.
much.
Bye.
Bye bye.